Hello everyone, in today's video we will be talking about percentages again, and we will be doing so by looking at some problems about basketball. We have here the after game chart, basically, that shows all the statistics for each team. So we can see here that Team A won with 80 points and Team B lost with 60 points. We can see the amount of two-pointers that Team A scored, as well as how many they shot, and the same for three-pointers and the same for Team B. And we can see some information about the most valuable player, how many points he scored, how many two-pointers, how many three-pointers, how many points he scored in the league overall. And we're going to be answering some questions about basically using this information. So let's get started right away. Uh, First question asks, what's the two-pointer accuracy of each team? So basically what it's asking is what percentage of two-pointers did each team score? So here, what percentage of two-pointers did each team score? Now, to find that, I know the total. Let's start with Team A. I know the total. They shot a total of 42 pointers and they scored 28. So basically, I want to find what percentage of 40 is 28. So we have the total, which is 40, of 28, and we want to find what percentage of 40 is 28. So I get that 40x. Let's actually write this with text. 40x needs to be equal to 28 times 100. So 40x needs to be equal to 2,800. And if we do this, x equals 70. So we would say that Team A has an accuracy of 70% for two-pointers. And Team B, we're going to find out now. For Team B, let's select the correct layer. For Team B, they shot a total of 22 pointers, sorry. And they scored 15. So we would have that 20x needs to be equal to 15 by 100. So 20x needs to be equal to 1,500. So x needs to be equal to 75. So Team B has an accuracy of 75%, which means that they were actually more accurate than Team A, which might make you wonder, if you heard that, might make you wonder, well then how did they lose? How did they score fewer points? Well, first of all, we haven't calculated the three-pointers as well, but also, if you look here, yeah, Team A missed a bigger percentage of their shots, but they took more shots. They took 40 shots, whereas Team B only took 20 shots. So, yeah, they scored a bigger percentage, but they didn't shoot as many. And that's why they got fewer points for that. Next, we have the question, actually, let's make the answers red to distinguish them from the questions. Great. Next up we have, what's the three-pointer accuracy of each team? So basically it's the same thing as before, but now we're talking about the three-pointers. So, let's see. The 3-pointers for Team A are 8 out of 20. So 20 up here. That's the hole. And 8. So what we need to have is that 20x, taking the cross product here, needs to be equal to 8 times 100 times 100. So 20x needs to be equal to 800. So x is equal to 40. So for Team A, let's copy this. It's 40% for the 3-pointers. And for Team B, we're going to find out just 10 out of 25. So I would put 25 up here and 10 down here. Let's put that in place. 25 overall. And they got 10. So we need to have that. Let's take the cross product. 25x needs to be equal to 10 times 100. So 25x needs to be equal to 1000. If I do this division, what I get is that x needs to be equal to 40%. Right? Yes. Oh, no, not 40%, just 40. So Team B's accuracy is also 40%. Let's keep that in mind because it's going to come in handy later. They have the same accuracy when it comes to 3-pointers. This Team B has better accuracy when it comes to 2-pointers. Okay. Let's go next. What's the overall accuracy of Team A? What this is asking is, out of all of Team A's shots, how many did they score? So that's both 2-pointers and 3-pointers. If you look, they took 40 2-pointer shots and 20 3-pointer shots. So that's 40 and 20. That makes a total of 60. And out of all of those, they scored 28 and 8, which makes 36. So let's take this cross product. 36. Actually, no, let's start with the x. Let's put the x first. 60x needs to be equal to 36 times 100. So what that means is that 60x needs to be equal to 3,600. So I do this division and we say that 3,600 divided by 60 makes 60. So Team A's accuracy is 60%. Let's make that right. Now you might be wondering why didn't we do the same for Team B? And the answer is because if we did that, we would have gotten 25 over 45. 25 divided by 45, which we can do that, but we'd get a decimal number that's way too big. So we avoid that. What percentage of each team's points were 2-pointers? Now, you might be thinking, wait, didn't we just do that here? And the answer is no, because here, what it's showing you is basically how many shots out of all of these they score. Well, if they scored 28 2-pointers, that doesn't immediately answer how many points they got from these. It just means that they scored 28 2-pointers, meaning that to find how many points they got from these, we need to multiply this by 2 because each of these is worth 2. The same goes for the 3-pointers. They scored 8, but each of them is worth 3. So to find that, we need to multiply this by 3. So let's start with Team A. Team A got how many of their points? Their total points here, 80. So we can write that in immediately. 80. Let's erase this as well. How many points did they get from 2-pointers? Well, they scored 28. So to find that, I would need to do 2 times 28, which would give me 56. And now I can solve this equation. I can do the cross product and get 80x needs to be equal to 56 times 100, which means 80x needs to be equal to 5,600, which means that x needs to be equal to 70. So, for team A, it's 70%. For team B, let's find out. They scored a total of 60 points. 15 2-pointers. So to find what percentage of that, to find how many points they got from this, I have to multiply it by 2. So 15 times 2 would give me 30. So I would have to have that 60x needs to be equal to 30 times 100, which means that 60x needs to be equal to 3,000. And if I do this equation, what I get is that x is equal to 50. So for team B, it's 50%. 50% of their points came from 2-pointers. What percentage of each team's points were 3-pointers? Now, we could do the same, what we just did. We could do the same just for the 3-pointers. Or we could just say, well, they're either getting their points from 2-pointers or 3-pointers. And if they got 70% out of 2-pointers, that means that they got the rest out of 3-pointers. Well, what's the rest? The difference between 100 and 70. That's the rest. So if they got 70% from 2-pointers, they got the rest. The other 30% to get to 100, they got from 3-pointers. And for team B, they got 50% out of 2-pointers and 50% out of 3-pointers, meaning they had half and half, basically, because 50% is half, because 50 is half of 100. Next up, we have the question, what percentage of team A's points did the MVP score? Okay, well, the MVP scored 26 points, and team A scored a total of 80 points. So to find that, I would say 80 there and 26 there. So 80x needs to be equal to 26 times 100. So 80x needs to be equal to 2,600. And if I do 2,600 divided by 80, what I get is that 80x is equal to 32.5. So the MVP scored 32.5% of Team A's points. And again, the answers go into red. There we go. Okay, those are the first half of the questions. Let's see the other half. The other half says, what percentage of his total league points did the MVP score in this match. Now, if you look at the information that we're given, we are told that the MVP scored a total of 200 points in the league. The league meaning all the matches that he's played. Combined, he scored 200 points. Okay? In this game, he scored 26. So it's basically asking what percentage of 200 is 26. To find that, we're going to put 200 here and 26 there. And we solve that by doing 200x is equal to 26 times 100. So 200x needs to be equal to 2,600. And if we do this division, we get that x is equal to 13. So he scored 13% of his points in this match. What was the MVP's two-pointer accuracy? So he took 20 shots, scored 10. Now, if you look closely, you'll notice that 10 is the half of 20. So what percentage did we say is half? We said 50% because 50 is half of 100. So you could just write the answer here, say 50%. But if you want to prove it, we put 20 here, 10 here, and we'd say 20x is equal to 10 times 100. So 20x is equal to 1,000. And if I do 1,000 divided by 20, I would get 50. So indeed, he scored 50% because 10 is the half of 20. Here next we're asked his three-pointer accuracy. So 2 out of 8. Total total of 8. And he scored 2. So 8x needs to be equal to 2 times 100. So 8x needs to be equal to 200, which means that x is equal to 25. X is equal to 25. So he scored 25% of his three-pointers. Next, we have in their next match, Team A scored 10% more points. How many points did they score? So what that means is that right now they scored 80. In their next match, I don't know how much they scored. So this is my no. I need to remove it from here. What I do know is that they scored 10% more. So that means that they scored basically 110% of this game. Compared to this game, this is 110%. So let's find this. I would do 100x is equal to 80 times, sorry, not like that, 110, which would give us 100x equals 8,800, meaning that x is equal to 88. So in the next game, they scored 88 points. Last question is a bit difficult to understand if you don't read it correctly. It asks, if you were the coach of Team B, would you advise them to take more two-point shots next time? What this is asking basically is it's asking you to focus here on this part. And what you should notice is that Team B took more 3-point shots than 2-point shots in comparison to Team A, which took way more 2-pointer shots. No, we're not going to turn this into a basketball analysis. So, simply put, what you could say is that yes, they should have taken more 2-point shots. Why? Because while they had the same accuracy as the other team in 3-point shots, they had better accuracy when it came to 2-point shots. So it was actually more beneficial for them if they would have taken more 2-point shots. And that's how we would answer that question, because their accuracy is better, 2-point shots. So that's all for today. I'll see you guys again on Friday when we solve your worksheets. Have a good day.